What is good, y'all? Welcome to Let's Cap. Got my guys Finesse and Crispy capping here with me today. We'll be breaking down the NBA slate. Real quick, I know I only do shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays because they're much smaller slates than the other days, obviously. But we tend to break games down pretty in depth because of the SDQL and the screen sharing that we do, and that's the reason why I kind of target these slower slates. But last few shows, guys, I know Chris been on them. Finesse, you were on the one of the more recent ones as well. Been doing pretty well, but on these other days when we don't have shows, how have you guys been doing? Finesse, I'll start with you here.
Yeah, I mean, excuse my language. I've been doing kind of dog shit. You know what I'm saying? So I mentioned that yesterday on Chris's Spaces, and yeah, it happens. But very very upset, very eager and motivated to bounce back. You know what I'm saying? So I hate it. I hate losing more than anything. So
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, better slate than usual on Thursday. So found some spots that I love. Hopefully, it's a day we bounce back, and yeah, happy to be here again, bro.
Yeah, for sure. We'll dive into those and see if we can get back on the winning track for you. I know, Chris. You do your daily spaces, and you still doing your morning shows as well? You're not.
Every now and then, I'll pop out with a morning show.
Yeah, how's everything else going for you? I know you've been. I think you cashed yesterday or the last couple of days in a row.
Yeah, yesterday I've been kind of splitting. So like I'll go like I'll start the day 1-0, and then I'll give out a late play, and that late play will lose. So
That
it's
late,
been
the late
just
ads,
just
man.
just yeah, just
Yeah.
up and down. Last night was a little small money line parlay with the Portland Trail Blazers to lose to the Houston Rockets, and Jeremy Grant hits a three off the
Mm.
backboard, sends the game to overtime. So that's how it's been, man. I'm up 25 units for the season. I see, and
Okay.
I got up 20 pretty early,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's been up and it's been
Up and
down. It's
down.
been up,
Yeah.
but it's been down. So that's how the days have been. Even when I'm profiting, it's not a lot of profit, but when I'm losing, it's also not a lot because I'm trying to quality over
That
quantity. So I haven't been
balance.
giving out a lot of plays yet. So
Yeah.
definitely looking to uh, build on the season overall and continue to ascend. And like Finesse said, it is a couple spots. So let's jump into it for today, fellas.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, things been going really well for me last. I think 7:30, just long period of time at Wager Talk. Uh, number one over there at that during those periods. There was a period between like December and January where I was kind of going backwards a little bit. But I remember talking to you about this, Chris, early on in the season. But we started the season hot, then we had that little down, or I had that little downfall between December and January, picking everything back up, and that's the reason why number one in the last 30 days over at Wager Talk. I don't know where I don't see the ranking with everybody at Wager Talk. They kind of hide that stuff, but for the regular season, but I know I'm like top three or top four or something like
Yeah,
that.
number one. That's all. Stop right there. Number one. That's all.
I'm pretty sure I'm up there. I know Ski's up there as well. Some good guys at Wager Talk that I really like. That's why I like doing the NBA show with them. But this show is where we get to kind of dive in really deep and really show the viewers uh, what type of angles we look at and kind of teach people that type of stuff. And that's the reason why I like this show a lot. And bringing guys like you, Finesse, and Chris, man, just brings a whole different aspect to it as well. And then obviously the chat. So let's get into it. I'm about to share my screen, but first game up here is the Jazz and the Wizards. I'm gonna bring my screen up. Finesse, let's start with you on this one. What are you seeing in this game? I know the Wizards are on the second leg of back to backs, and Jazz playing really good right now, especially on the offensive side of the ball. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, I think that was an important first note. Wiz on a back to back where they are winless this year. I think it was 0-7, 0-8
Second
straight
leg,
up
yeah.
or on a leg of back to backs. And yeah, so I put a little SGP together. I've been liking these, 2-3 like SGPs. With that note, first leg is Jazz money line coming off a 3-game skid, and most of that skid has been defense. When they went on that just wagon of a spree in terms of winning and covering spreads, it was the defense that really got in order, and that's fell off over the last 3 games. 3 straight L's, perfect bounce back spot, even on the road against the Wizards, who play absolutely zero defense. Second leg of a back to back, like I said, where they're winless and they're kind of still getting smoked in those games as usual. So
Yeah.
yeah, just think this is a get right spot for the Jazz. Second leg is Kuzma 15 plus points, and then third leg is Lowry 2 plus 3. So Lowry coming off a game where he only made 1 3, No back-to-back games this year. We're making less than 2-3. So I like the bounce back spot. Volume should be there in a really, really good matchup. And Cool's 15 plus. I mean, his regular line is like 21, 22 and a half around there. So 15 plus, but a good defensive matchup versus the Jazz. Pretty self-explanatory. Those 3 legs minus 108 on FanDuel. Really, really like that. Yeah. So
that's nice. Yeah, I know those SGPs are. I talked about it last. I think like last year when you were on the show a lot. A lot of the times, like I don't think of it in that sense, but when you plug it all together and you kind of break it down, it always makes a lot of sense when you do those SGPs because they play off of each other. Chris, what are your thoughts on this game here? I just brought up a few stats, but Finesse brought up the second leg of back-to-back games with the Wizards. I think it's right here. 0-7 straight up, 6-1 to the under. So they're struggling on the offensive side of the ball. 6-1 to their team total under. If we look at the Jazz against opponents who are on the second leg of back-to-back games, 5-1 ATS, 5-1 to the under. Again, limiting opponents in that aspect. 2 ways that I could think of: Jazz or the Wizards team total under. I know we took the team total under yesterday against the Wolves. We were aligned on that one, but what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so to play devil's advocate just really quickly, I think if you go back, RC, and look at because I looked at that as well, Wizards on the second leg of back-to-back, they played some really good opponents in those games. A lot better than this Utah Jazz team. I was on the under last time we did a show, on the under between the Pelicans and the Jazz, and Will Hardy came out, called his team out because they didn't play a lot of defense, but I'm not sure if I trust them to actually turn their defensive efforts around in this spot. If you look at the Wizards when they are on the second leg of a back-to-back, RC, those games are tending to trend towards the under. But like I said, if you go in, just type it in real quick so we can look at it. Just the Wizards on the second leg of back-to-back games. Those opponents that they've played against, they're actually really good defensive teams. So like the Raptors, they play slow. You see the Hawks game on there. They just can't beat the Hawks for whatever reason.
This was also before the trade as well.
Right. So that was the big to me. That was the big rest advantage. But I don't know if you remember that, RC. But they was coming out. They were on the second leg of back-to-back, and Raptors. Nobody wanted the Raptors in that game, but the Raptors had 3 days of rest. So I think you might have been.
We were on that. Yeah, I was on that game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that one there. But like these are really good, solid defensive team. The Jazz are the outlier for me. Outside of the Kings that's on that list, like the Jazz are pretty much an outlier. So that's the one thing that kind of talked me off, like the Jazz, potentially, the Wizards potentially like not being able to score. Yeah. But then you just look at how, for me, I looked at how Jordan Poole has been playing, and he's somebody that can't be trusted in the offense. So I say all that to say this. I really wanted to get there on the full game over because the Jazz defense has been playing so bad and go against those trends. And the Wizards on the second leg of back-to-back probably just going to play a little, even faster, even though they have been playing more defense and their games have been trending towards the under. I think 4 of their last 5 have gone under. So I couldn't really get there. It was too conflicting of a side for me. Going back to one thing Finesse mentioned, and I want you to look at this as well, RC. Yeah. Looking at road favorites, Finesse kind of mentioned this, road favorites that are laying, not even this season, just in general, the whole database. Road favorites laying 6.5 points or more. I think this line is like 7, and they're off 3 straight losses. Those teams typically play really, really well, and it kind of points to the Jazz. I think maybe team total over. I know the number is pretty high, but if I'm playing it, I think that's the way I'm looking. So what was the number? Over? Yeah, what was the number? I see. What did you get? You got what was ATS number?
65, 38, and 1.
So that's what, 63%. Yeah. So add in there that they're rested. And then the number it's about the same. You see, it is stretching towards the under though. Add in there that the opponent is also unrested, RC, and it gets really good for the Jazz in this spot.
11-2. That team total over is very interesting, just because where did it go? If you just look at the Jazz, so there's this period where I think they started to get a little bit healthier, but since the sort of like the second week of December here, right? 15-8 straight up, 16-7 ATS. But if you look at their team total, and if we just kind of filter right here, they've only gone under their team total 3 times in that span. That's a 23 game sample size.
And now they get the worst defense in the league, and that
now
plays at a top
exactly,
five
and on the second leg
pace.
of back-to-back
It
games,
makes sense to
where
take the team total over. What's the number?
it
I
does.
see. Is it 124, 123 probably? Probably something ridiculous.
Right now, so I'm looking at Wagertalk's odd screen page. It says team total 126.5. So it came up. It did come up.
Jesus.
It did come up, but let's dive into that a little bit more. All right, so we got 123.6 is their average in that span. Sorry, the Jazz in that span, right? And we go, what's the total? 245. Sorry, let's look at these higher totals. Say greater than or equal to 240. How much are they averaging there? 130.8. Right. So we're looking at a high total in the spot where they are playing really well offensively. Only went under the team total once, and that obviously against the Celtics. Obviously, that's definitely reasonable to say. You look at these Pistons team. Well, they went OT, but they went over in regulation. Spurs over. It seems like a spot they do get over that team total.
So real quick, RC, let's look at the Wizards this month, real quick.
The Wizards this month?
Yeah, so just Wizards this month. Because they've slowed down just a tad bit from being able to score the ball. Now, granted, the Jazz defense is terrible, but look at them, look at their scoring. Like they've gone under their team total. And this was something I looked at when I was looking at the team total under yesterday against the Timberwolves. They've gone under their team total. Their offense has really slowed down. I think it's correlated with, Jordan Poole not playing well. Denny Avdia stepped up on the offensive end. You got Marvin Bagley, who, rebounds the ball a little bit better. And now you got a true, backup center because Daniel Gafford comes back in the starting lineup. So it was conflicting. Both of those things are conflicting. I feel like the Jazz may not need, they could score 124 points and beat the Wizards 124 to like 114, or 124 to 117 and potential team total not go over. So all of those things kind of conflicting, but I think if I had to play it, it would probably be that team total over. Just to stay away from the spread.
Just on it already. 126 and a half is ridiculous.
Yeah, they understand.
So this is from Kane.
I looked at this as well.
Home dogs off of a loss as a home dog, and they were double-digit dogs in that last game. And second leg of back-to-back game.
Literally like y'all speaking another language. Like that's literally what it is.
All right, so last game they're double-digit dogs, and they lost at home. They're a home dog again, and they're on the second leg of back-to-back games. So that's 3 parameters there, basically.
They get smoked.
Yeah, they get fucked up. I know. I was on Jay's show earlier. I know he liked the Wizards, but I can only look towards the Jazz and that team total over. I know, or the Wizards team total under. Those were like all the different ways that you could look. And if that's the case, then Jazz seems like the right spot, right?
Wizards team total under RC may make a lot of sense because I bet you I know what Jay said. Jay probably said that Wes Unseld went to the front office this morning, so they're gonna play. I figured that sounds like something that Jay would say. It makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I was looking towards the Wizards when I first started handicapping the game as well, just because they've been covering as these big dogs, and I know one thing for sure: I can't lay 7.5 with the Jazz on the road like that. That's something I'm not in the business of doing. So that's why I kind of pivoted towards the team total. But if we think that the Jazz are going to play a little bit more defense, the quotes did come out from Will Hardy where he kind of said that, they got to play with a little more effort and they got to look outside the fatigue, because this is a pretty brutal road trip for them.
Yeah.
Then I do think it could be correlated with that Wizards team total to go under. And granted, just because it's inflated, right? Both totals are a little bit inflated on the second leg of a back-to-back. So maybe it's a Wizards team total to go under. That way, if they cover, and the Jazz don't get to their team total, you stay away from the spread. I think that could be it. And I know it don't make a lot of sense to the people that are probably listening, but it's just the way my brain works.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that talked me off of the Wizards team total under though is just if we look at fast break points, I know they get a lot of they get a chunk of points from fast breaks, right? And points off turnovers. If you look at fast breaks allowed, the Jazz are right there. And also points off turnovers as well.
That's last 10 games, the same thing, I see.
What was that?
Last 10 games, same thing?
I didn't break it down to last 10, but I did look at full season. So if we look at fast break here, Wizards still up there, and then Jazz, still there. That's the only reason that talked me out. But I think if the pace keeps fast, keeps going fast, the Jazz should be able to still click offensively and just kind of cover the game from that aspect. But yeah, that's what got me off of the team total under though.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, let's move on to the next one here. Sixers and the Pacers. A lot of injuries to worry about here. Obviously, Pacers without Hallie, and then Tobias Harris didn't show up for shoot around, so he may not play either. And I know Melton is out for the Sixers. But Chris, let's start with you on this one. Did you catch anything on this game?
Yeah, I played the under here. I just came on here. We talked a lot about the under in their most recent game, the Indiana Pacers. They were playing against Denver the other day. And I think it's a lot of that specifically for me. When I look at Denver, I see some aspects of Philly. You see a dominant big man. You see a team that can play at a little bit slower pace. I also think the injuries, like come into play as well. Robert Covington's going to be out for a couple more weeks. Anthony Milton also out. Jalen Smith on the opposite side listed as questionable. And Tobias. If Tobias doesn't play, that's 17, almost 18 points per game that's going to be missing as well. So we cast the under in the Indiana and Denver game the other day, and I think the fact that the books keep setting this total so high without Halliburton playing, to me, is the thing that kind of jumps out. The Pacers, then we know the Pacers as a top five team as far as pace in the NBA. They're 19th in pace over their last 3 games without Halliburton. 7-3 to the under without Halliburton, 70%, and 3-0 to the under since the trade happened with Pascal Siakam. And those games are averaging just 227 points, and they stand under by an average of 12 points per game. And they've been playing against pretty good offensive teams. If you go through and look at who the Pacers have been playing against recently, I know they had that one game against the Blazers. Don't look at that one, but they played against the Suns. They played against Denver. We're talking about really good elite offensive teams. So having that extra day to be able to practice, I think Philly could come in here, kind of sleek walk through this game. I also like Indy. I think Indy can cover this number. I've been watching them play. And they've been taking teams to the wire, whether they win or lose. And I also am of the mindset that I'm not willing to continue to fade a team that plays hard for their coach, consistently. So Philly can win the game, but I do think that Indiana can keep this one close. And it goes against all the trends for Philly because Philly is good. I looked at them as road favorites with Joel Embiid in. They typically win. They typically cover. But first game off that road trip, Joel Embiid just dropped 70. They got to figure something out. So I think it's going to be a slow paced game. I think Tobias not being there, leads me more towards the under. 239 is what I got it at, -106 on FanDuel. But yeah, I just think we see, a little bit slower pace of a game. You got to slow it down and be some way. So keep the ball in your hands. That'll help.
Yeah, a few things that kind of looks towards the Pacers side here when they're on the second of a homestand. They do well in that spot. So if they're sitting comfortable at home, they do well. I know the Sixers, they've won 6 straight, but they failed to cover the last 2. And you mentioned the first of a 5-game road trip. They also got the Nuggets on deck, which to me seems like, one thing that Embiid probably looks forward to. I also looked at the whole road favorite aspect of it, right? They're 11-0 straight up in that spot. 9-2 to their team total over. But if the opponent is above 500, I think the total actually goes over by a huge margin. That's the only reason why I kind of stayed off of the under in that one. Also, the first leg of back-to-back games, they've been trending towards the over. But obviously, all of that has to do with Hallie, right? Hallie's not in there, and they've been going under at a high rate. So to me, there was a lot of mixed signals, both total and the side perspective. So I stayed off of this game completely. But Finesse, you see anything on this one that caught your eye?
Yes, I ran a little two leg. The first one is Maxey under 8.5 assists. It's an old line on his assists. Obviously, really like the number. I think he's due for even more assist regression than what we've seen, obviously, with Joel in there and cooking and things like that. So just overall numbers under this number in 5 of his last 6. Looking at his last 20 games, when he's going over this number, it's most likely right on 9, right? There's 5 games in there. He lands right on 9. Over his last 10 games, averaging a little over 10 potential assists per game and converting around 75% of those, which is very unsustainable long term. You look at the elite assist man in the league, guys like Luka, guys like Hallie, they convert 55, 60%. So, he's still averaging, I think 7.3, 7.4 assists his last 10. but that conversion rate is very, very unsustainable. And in this matchup, 9 straight games versus the Pacers, Maxey has played. He's went under this number. Pacers last 10 games, top 6 in terms of least assists allowed. Last 15 games, allowing the third fewest assists to point guards. Just a really big number. Obviously it's an odd number. The regular number is 7.5. Don't mind that under in general. So, in Pacers really struggle with isolation ball. Obviously, that's big with Embiid. I think that's part of the reason why they do good in terms of limiting assists. I think another part is they really, really do a good job of limiting threes. They're very aggressive on closeouts, leading to players having to dribble and pass again and stuff like that. So, obviously a really big number for Maxey, under 8.5 assists. The other leg of that, and we'll talk about this game in a few. Jamal Murray under 26.5 points, just came off a 30-point game. Has yet to cover this number in back-to-back games this season. Obviously, that's a tough matchup as well versus the Knicks. Very slow-paced game. Probably get the OG matchup. So under 26.5 points for Jamal Murray and Tyrese Maxey under 8.5 assists. That's plus 130 on DraftKings. So I really, really like that little sweaty fucking underlay. So I'm prepared for the pain, prepared to sweat, and get some plus money.
Gotcha. Real quick, I was just looking at potential look aheads to the Nuggets visiting Denver. Their teams have actually been covering before that, so nothing too crazy to think about as far as a fade. But it's very surprising that teams are covering right before playing the Nuggets, because I always think that the look ahead spot, but it could just be specific teams, and also maybe the fact that maybe they don't see the Nuggets as big of a threat as they did last season.
Or RC, or maybe they want to win because they know when they go to Denver, they probably not gonna win.
That makes a lot of sense as well. That's a good chunk of covers there. All right, so let's move on to the next game here. Someone, Finesse, you want to catch this one? Embiid assist. Not too big on props, so I'll ride with you.
You're muted, Finesse. I was looking at this too.
Yeah, it was 5.5 plus money. I really, really looked at it. If you're just looking at hit rates and box scores, that's not going to tell the full story. Embiid still averaging close to double-digit assists. I think a little over double-digit assists, a little bit over 10 his last 7 games. A couple things took me off. I rewatched the games that he's played versus the Pacers this year. They pretty much just let him cook. You know what I'm saying? They're coming off a win against, the Sixers and halted the Sixers win streak their last time out. So, and they just kind of let him cook. Not a lot of hard doubles, not a lot of hard hedges or anything like that. Of course, he's getting extra attention, but not strictly double team. So that worries me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, if he decides to just dominate, he can score 50 points again, but we seen in his last game still scored close to 40 points and got 7 assists. So at plus money, 5.5 assists, I can't talk you off for that. There's just a couple small things that just scare me away from that. Chris, you had someone that too? You said you were looking at that?
No, I'm just thinking to myself, it a lot of what you just said, Finesse, like it makes sense, and then you kind of go through it a little bit deeper, and you're like, maybe he finished right on the hook at 5. A lot of the times these plus money, props are plus money for a reason. You see, that juice on the opposite side, and yeah, just it's a sharp. I think it's a pretty sharp number. I'll say that.
All right. Let's move on to the next one here: the Celtics and the Heat. Finesse, I know you had some questions on this one about how to pull certain things, so we can use this as a little learning thingy or whatever. But all right, so I think I remember you asking about the Celtics in the first half. So if we go team equals Celtics in general, they've been pretty dominant in the first half, right? First half margin around 8 points almost. On the first half, but if we look at them specifically against teams with a winning record, it comes down a little bit, but you can see there's still that gap here in that first quarter. And then I think we looked at road. You still see that first quarter then, and then we look at rest if they were rested. That's where that big gap in the first quarter shows up. Rested on the road against teams with a winning record.
Can we look at teams that have no rest too? Like if they play into a team with no rest?
The opponent has no rest?
Yeah.
On the road or just adding this?
Probably overall. We can check on the road too though.
So that's why if we just add the
Damn.
opponent rest. They dominated against the Sixers. They dominated against
just one
Sixers. All right,
game
so
or just one
let's take
game?
this part out. Let's just take this
Okay.
part out. Let's make sure that they're rested and their opponent is not, and we'll keep the opponent win percentage. Oops. Straight up. Still that first quarter.
Even in the first half. But yeah, still the first quarter.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Still the first quarter. Both of these were at home. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, for me, I can only look towards the Celtics side. I know there's a few things to look at here. So with Celtics, when I think opponent is on the second leg of back-to-back games, so Celtics 10-0 straight up. So they haven't lost a game in that spot. But if they're not favored by double digits, so a more reasonable line. So line is greater than -10. If they're not double-digit favorites, they've won and covered in each one of those. Again, that first quarter is a huge margin there. They did take care of the Sixers, the Knicks, Pacers. I don't know if Hallie was there, but they were both on the second leg of back-to-back games. Kind of trending towards the under in this game, but I know Celtics Heat games tend to go under. If you look at the Heat side in general, like their offense is just very bad. Recent form, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight team total unders, 7 straight unders overall. Failed to cover last 4. And I was talking to Finesse about this before, but it just, Jaquez Jr. is super, to me, an underrated piece to this team. And you can see how bad their offense has been since he's been out. But I don't know. The only way that I could look is towards the Celtics side here. What are your thoughts on this one? Chris, let's start with you.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a pretty big number, but the Celtics typically win and cover these big numbers. And I don't know, man. Maybe the Heat's is still, a tad bit too overrated. You see them lose as double-digit home favorites yesterday, after losing 3 games. And, part of me is just like, man, Spoelstra is going to figure this thing out, Like, granted, they don't got Jaime Jaquez Jr., but, I mean, you still got Tyler Hero. You got Jimmy Butler. You got Bam Adebayo, right? Duncan Robinson's still there. So, like, what specifically is going on? So, I think the Jaime Jaquez piece is really, really big. I was thinking about this last night. I'm thinking to myself, like, I think Jimmy Butler probably benefits the most from Jaime Jaquez Jr. being there. From the standpoint of, like, he kind of gets to take the regular season off. We know he doesn't care about the regular season. You get to let, Jaime Jaquez Jr. kind of develop. And Jimmy, he don't got to worry about, cooking as much. And I think in these last couple games, like, Jimmy hasn't – we know Jimmy to be like a superstar level talent when he wants to be. And you go through and look at those games, RC, because the thing that correlates for me is Jaime Jaquez Jr. has been out. Jimmy Butler's been in, right? They kind of like missed each other. So you get Jimmy Butler back. He got 30 points in his last 2 games. And it's not like he's not shooting the ball like he's not shooting it bad. He's just not shooting the ball. So I think, now you get, really good defenders, Boston team coming back. Super healthy, just got to win. Boston feels like, to me, they're taking all their games really, really serious. We see them go into Dallas the other day, and they won the second leg of a back-to-back in that game and smoked Dallas. So, like, they're taking these games very, very serious. The way I was looking at playing the game was kind of correlated with what you said, RC, and it was Miami Heat team total under. You mentioned a lot of the points, but on the Boston side of things, they're the second best defensive rated team over the last 5 games, 5-0 to the under in their last 5 games. And they've held each one of their opponents under their team total as well. They're allowing just 102.6 points per game. Boston has also held 6 of their opponents under their team total when they're a more rested team and they're on the road. So the defense has been traveling. Porzingis is going to be in there. Horford's going to be in there. Remember playoff revenge. I think that I think Boston just don't like Miami. So I can see them playing, really, 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 really tough. Also, Jrue Holiday, who was in the same, conference, also doesn't like Miami. They were eliminated by Miami last year as well in the first round. So, and when you flip it to the Miami side, I know you mentioned some of these points already. I see just real quick. Miami is the 5th best defensive team over the last 5 games. Worst offensive rated team. and playing at the second slowest pace over the last 5 games. They're 10-2 to the under in the month of January. So Miami team total under 107.5 is something that's in my bet slip. Just haven't hit the submit button yet.
Yeah, just in general in January they're down there. As far
So
as
Chris, before
offensive
the
rating.
show started, right? Me and RC were talking about. I brought up to him the first half Miami team total under. Did you look at that at all?
Nah, I just don't think they're gonna score over time. I don't care if it's early or it's late. But
Yeah.
I will say this real quick, and I'll say this before they beat Brooklyn, and I was on Brooklyn in that game. Before they beat Brooklyn like a week and a half ago, Miami was a very good ATS team in the first quarter and in the first half of games. Like that's when they would typically score. And then as the game goes on, specifically at home too, but like overall, like that's where they would, score points. Now, I'm not sure what's going on, especially when you letting Vince Williams Jr. come in there and give you buckets. And Jared Jackson Jr. Wasn't even really doing that much last night. I'm not sure what Miami's doing, man. I watched the post-game interview last night. Bam said, we got to figure this thing out. Like, sometimes he feels like they're overpassing. They're getting into the paint and trying to make the super correct play versus just taking the wide open shot. And you're not going to be able to do that against Boston. Either one, right? Because Boston has really good on-ball defenders. You're not just going to go by a lot of those defenders. And I think this game means a lot to the Celtics as well. So, I'll be with you guys, looking at Boston, laying the points for Boston, even though it's a big number. And also looking at Miami, like I said, team total under probably going to be on my card for today, but I just haven't locked it in yet. I know that was a lot, Finesse. What was you saying, Finesse?
Yeah.
No, yeah, just the team total under in the first half was really peaking out to me. Normally in today's game, you get a 58, 59.5, so 55.5 is pretty low, but yeah, I like that. I like that look. And you mentioned Drew, and that's who I'm on today. And you're right. You're looking at his last, I think even back to like 12. What do I have? Last 13 games. He's really, handled Miami most of those games. So I like Holiday 2+3s tonight. Minus 125 on FanDuel. I took the 3+3s at plus 260, and then I took Holiday 15+ points and 2+3s at plus 200 on FanDuel. So I like it. 2+3s, 11 of his last 16, 7 of his last 9 road games, 11 of his last 13 versus Miami. That's part of him, absolutely hooping versus Miami. 3+3s in 6 of those games, last 13 versus Miami, and 7 attempts in those 13 games. So that's all we can really cap is the volume. Drew's hot right now. He's hooping. He's playing really, really well, averaging close to 7 3-point attempts last 8 games, shooting 42% for 3 in that span, which is elite. Attempts are way up from a season average. Last 9 road games, shooting 47% from 3, which is fucking outrageous. Last 9 games overall, 54% of his shot attempts are coming from 3. That's highest of any starter. Even guys like D White and Tatum. And it's a great matchup. Last 5 games versus Miami. Miami's 26th in 3-point attempts allowed, letting opponents shoot 38% in that span. Miami defense, in terms of the 3, slightly worse at home. What do we got here? Yeah, so in terms of catch and shoot and corner too, I thought this was really interesting. Holiday's taken the most corner threes the third most corner threes on the team, and shooting 63% on corner threes this season, which is fucking crazy.
That's crazy.
Miami's allowing the 4th most 3-point attempts and the 4th highest 3-point percentage on corner threes this year. Same thing with catch and shoot. Their bottom 10 catch and shoot team. Drew Holiday is a top 3 catch and shoot guy on Boston. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good spot. Normally balls out against them. I don't really understand his lines. His points was like 11.5. Was dropping as the day went on for better odds. So I don't really get it. I know he's a very high IQ guy. He knows he doesn't always need to score to win games, especially on this team. So he's perfectly fine not getting up volume. But I think this is a game where there's a lot of attention on JT and JB, kind of slower paced game. And I think he's going to take at least 5 or 6, attempts from 3. So I'll take that, So 2+3s, 3+3s, 15 points, and 2+3s. Get a little plus money in there. I really like Drew. Real quick, and then I know I'm talking a lot, but I have another little SGP I like. So Celtics double result and Derek White 1+3. That's minus 150. I'm looking for W's right now, so I'm paying the juice. Put 2+3s for Derek White if you want it. But we talked a lot about Celtics first half, 9-1 overall. The last 10 first halves straight up.
Yeah,
on a road, 9-1 as well. Last 15 games, top 5 offensive team, top 5 defensive team in the first half. Miami really struggling in the first half overall. their last 10 games. On back-to-backs, Miami has the worst offensive rating in the league on the second and the back-to-backs, and that's kind of going along with everything that Chris was saying. So I think we win the first half. We've been really good. Miami's been good in the first half at home, but I think we covered that first half. I think the regular number is 4.5. And then, second leg of a back-to-back, hopefully Boston kind of pulls away. I think this is a shot-making game for Boston. You know what I'm saying? I know you make more shots, you win the game. That's basketball, but especially a team like the Celtics, we need to be making shots, 3-point shots, shit like that, to have success. So I think this is a game where we can kind of take advantage of a struggling Miami team. And Derek White 1+3. I mean, that's, pretty self-explanatory. So Drew Holiday threes and a little 3-leg builder I really, really like for this game.
Love it. All right. So real quick, before we move on to the next game, just a couple of things to add on to potentially fade the Heat here. The Heat as home dogs, right? Heat as home dogs, 0-4 straight up, 0-4 ATS. Losing by an average margin of really close to where the line is, 8 points there. But this is the largest spread. Also on the first leg of back-to-back games. So I look at the Heat on the first leg of back-to-back games. And we go 2-3 straight up, 1-3-1 ATS. But we look at the situations where they're the dog, right? So let's go add the dog parameter. Failed to cover in each one of those. Barely, not even hitting 100 on each one of those as well. So they hit 90 against the Wolves, 97 against the Nets. And now you're playing one of the better defenses in the league. I got to look towards the team total under here and also towards the Celtics if I were to make a bet on this one. All right, so let's move on to the next game. Nuggets and the Knicks. This one was a good game. I really liked breaking this one down. But Finesse, let's start with you here on this game. Do you have any looks on this one, SGPs or props?
I'm sorry, which game? I was reading something.
Nuggets and the Knicks.
Yeah, so just that Jamal Murray under 26.5, that was a part of the little 2-man. This is a really, really interesting game. I really want to take the Knicks, but I'm not going to. I really want to fade Julius Randle. I don't think I'm going to. His points was 25.5. I don't like fading, high usage, high volume guys. Randle don't give a fuck. He's gonna jack him up sometimes, pause, and he might take 25 shots and shoot terribly and still somehow cover the 25.5. So those are my biggest leans. I like the Knicks getting the plus the points. They're playing really, really well. So I like fading Randle too, but I don't know if I'll get there. So just the Jamal Murray under 26.5 is a part of the 2-leg, and that's probably it for me.
Chris, what are your thoughts on this game here? We're probably going to talk about a few of the same things, but I just brought up the Knicks in January, their defense, how they've only allowed one team to go over their team total, and also the fact that they've only allowed one team to hit over the 110 benchmark here. And I believe the Nuggets team total is 111.5 or 112 now. Last night it was 113.5, and I took the under 113.5 last night. But the Knicks plus the points and the under kind of led me towards the Nuggets team total under. So, but what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's like Vanessa said, it's a very conflicting game in my opinion. I see. I'm not in the business of fading Denver right now. They're one of the hottest teams, and I think they're on this East Coast road trip. Yeah. And it's the last game before they go back home. Typically, that's fatigue spot. But I think Denver is better than New York. I know that they're at home. I know New York is at home, and I don't like the spot. Like this, when we think about what Denver just did, they lost in Philly, but Philly shot the ball remarkably that game. And I think the Knicks. I don't think the Knicks got as much offense as Philly does in that game, right? And then they go to Boston and they win. And if you can win in Boston at that Garden, to me, you can win. You can win at Madison Square Garden as well. So I do kind of lean a little bit more towards Denver. I think if I was playing it, I'd stay off the spread because I know they're not the greatest ATS team on the road. But I'll probably just take them on the money line. I'm not sure, RC, how how New York is going to be able to score in this game, right? Like I'm thinking about Aaron Gordon being able to kind of neutralize Julius Randle from a player, from a matchup perspective. Mm-hmm. They also got OG Anunoby that they can throw at Jamal Murray. So then you rely heavily upon Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon. I'm sorry, you also have a really good matchup for Jalen Brunson. I'm sorry, for Jalen Brunson. I think he can, have a good game, but I don't know if any of those other guys really scored a ball. See, one thing I looked at was the Knicks, when they're playing against competition, they typically don't. They've been beating up on some cupcakes, it feels like. So looking at Denver, I feel like they've had the tougher schedule, and I don't know if the fatigue actually catches up with them in this spot. So I lean towards Denver. Like I said, if I was playing it, I'd play the money line. I do like the under, like you said. I think this is a game, RC, that wouldn't surprise me if the game was 105-98 at the end. These are two very, very good defensive teams, and I probably should have just pulled the trigger last night when I handicapped it. But what I wrote in my notes is that both teams are bottom 6 in pace the last 5 games, so neither one of these teams want to run fast. Knicks, third best defensive rated team. Denver, top half of the league as well. Knicks 7-0 to the under in home games this month. So yeah, I like the under. I think I might still get there with the under and stay away from the side. But if I had to play the side, I would take Denver on the money line. I'm not sure how much they win by, but I do think that they've been really caring about these road games, and it could just be Jokic, playing for Coach Denny. They're undefeated, I think, since that's happened, and they're rested in this spot. Granted, it's the last game of a road trip, but they are, coming off a day's rest. And I also feel like the Knicks got super lucky and won that game the other day. Jay Money would tell me they're teetering on a loss. So I think Brooklyn loses this game. I think New York loses this game today and Denver wins. I take them on the money line if I had to get involved. And I like the under as well.
So the only reason why, so if we look at the Nuggets, though, obviously they're on the last leg of that road trip, right? And you could kind of say that they're also teetering on a loss as well. I mean, I know some of these margins you're seeing here against the Celtics, the Wizards, and the Pacers, 2-9-5, but you could see that their offense is kind of waning, right? Their energy is kind of waning a little bit. So to me, and then they also have that, to me, a big rivalry game against the 76ers with Embiid and Jokic or whatever. But to me, it seems like they're also teetering on a loss, and that's the reason why I kind of look towards the team total under. They're starting to fade a little bit, right? You could see the energy going. Then you pair that with the Knicks, the fact that obviously they haven't been playing the best opponents, right? But they're still playing really solid defense regardless, right? The Bucks, they're not adjusting enough for the Knicks defense. One of the biggest things that the Knicks do well is defend the perimeter. I know not a lot of points come from 3 for the Nuggets, but it's something that is limiting some of their key guys like MPJ and all that stuff, right? So for me, perimeter defense is solid. They're going to have to try and find a way to limit Jokic, which means we need Hartenstein in there, right? And we don't know his status, but hopefully he does play. But for me, there could be a situation where they can cover or not cover and still stay under their team total. And that's the reason why I kind of targeted that more than anything, because you could see they're winning and covering, still staying under their team total the last 3 games. Same thing with the Knicks side. If you go to the Knicks side here, they've been winning and covering, staying under their team total. But for me, I just kind of really focus just on the Knicks side in general. The Nuggets side in general.
Real quick, RC. Looking at the teams that the Knicks have played over their last handful of games, does that not worry you at all? Like that only the Mavericks, which is the only good offensive team they played,
team,
and the 76ers are a really good offensive team. They smoked them. I remember that game in Philly. It was on that Friday ESPN game. But does that not scare you a little bit? Because I think Denver is still top 6 offensive rated team, or you think just combination of being on the last?
It is a combination of both. Yeah, it is a combination of both, and that's the reason why also that I took the team total, because obviously when you can beat teams and you can dominate teams, you tend to not push the pace, or you tend to not play as strong offensively, and that's the reason why I stayed off of the Knicks. Focus. What if the Knicks end up going over their team total some aspect, right? If I think the Nuggets defense starts to struggle towards the end of this, and they're not as focused because they want to focus on the Sixers, the Sixers on deck when they move home, then there's a piece where the Knicks can end up finding a way to get up and over, right? So that's the reason why I focus on the Nuggets side. The travel fatigue, along with the Knicks playing solid defense, in my opinion, especially on the perimeter. Like I said, I think the biggest issue is not having that big there, right? So Hartenstein or whatever it might be has to be able to stop or limit Jokic in some way, right? So that's the big question mark in my opinion. But yeah, overall, I think, like I said, Nuggets can win, they can cover, and still stay under the team total, in my opinion.
Yeah, real quick odds that Joel does not play against the Nuggets minus 250.
You think he don't play?
I mean, come
I
on.
mean, he wants the MVP, right? And you got to have that game minute, that game minimum or whatever. So I would
We'll
think he would
see.
want to play. I would think he would want to play. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, let's move on to the next game here. We got the Wolves and the Nets. I don't really have much in this one. Just competing numbers here. Obviously, the Wolves should be the better team here, or they are the better team. But second of a 4-game road trip, third game in 4 nights, second leg of back-to-back games. The situation tells me to stay off. But the Nets are kind of bad. So to me, conflicting stuff. No play on this one for me. But finesse, anything on this one?
Absolutely nothing.
Chris, what you got in this game?
I don't got nothing on this game either, if I'm being honest with you guys. I mean, the things that kind of jump out to me, we cashed yesterday with taking Washington under the team total, but that was a faster paced game. Now the books know. I think Brooklyn's like bottom 5 offensively, and I think you really just look at this game from the 3-point line. See if you think that the Brooklyn Nets if you think that the Timberwolves are going to play that same level of defense that they brought to DC last night, and they, that's going to carry the travel from DC to Brooklyn tonight, and you also think that they're going to defend the 3-point line, then you just take Minnesota to cover, because Brooklyn's offense is just not it right now, and it does kind of feel. I know we're conflicted about certain games at certain times, but if you've looked at every single Brooklyn game over the last 5 games and said, man, like I really want to fade them, but maybe not tonight. You've left a lot of money on the table because they just can't close the game, right? We were on the show the other day, talked about them playing against the Knicks, and I was off in that game, but I did live bet the team total under in the fourth quarter based on those trends that we were talking about. So even if this one is close, I'll give the recommendation to the viewers as well. The Nets just really, like, if you just look at them over the month, they really struggle in the fourth quarter, only averaging about 23, 24 points. And I think that's because they don't know what they're doing. Jacque Vaughn doesn't know what lineup he's going to put out there. So the ball, they just don't know. And from a matchup perspective, RC, Brooklyn, I know that the Brooklyn Nets are typically, they generate a lot of points off second chance and offensive rebounds. They're a really good rebounding team. But you're not getting any of that against the Timberwolves. Not with Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards. They got really, some really good rebounders. So this could be a game where I kind of wait. I know Conley is still listed as questionable as well. You definitely want him in there to be the head of the snake because offensively they're just so much more fluent with him, being a primary ball handler. But I could potentially get there. I don't necessarily like taking road favorites on the second leg of a back-to-back third game in 4 nights, but I do hate the Brooklyn Nets, though. I'll just say that.
It makes a lot of sense to me. Overall, their current form is not something that you could back. I just
look at
the spot in general isn't one that I back either for the Wolves. So
what you got there, RC? Like I look into this stuff all the time, right? Timberwolves unrested so far, 2-2 on the season, straight up and against the spread. But look at the opponents they're playing. They played the Suns, the Lakers, the Celtics. Those are 3 playoff teams. The Grizzlies not, of course, and they won and covered the game. And now they get the Nets, and that's not going to the playoffs. Now I don't know what. They're not going to the play. So I, just from a trend perspective, I'm not sure the Nets going to be able to score as many points as those teams did either.
Yeah. How's the Nets defense actually? Real quick.
It's good. They're top 5 defensively last 5 games, I think. And I think a big part of it is just that they've been playing so slow. I want to say, where are they? Top 10?
Last 10 games, top 10.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And a lot of the finesse is just because they've been playing so slow, right? Like they don't know what they want to do with the ball on offense, and they can't make a shot. When you can't make a shot, you kind of got to play defense unless you want to lose by 40.
Yeah, bottom 4 pace in the league over that span.
All right. Well, which way were you leaning on this one, Chris?
Taking laying the points. If I'm playing, I'm laying. Especially with a short number like that, I feel like they that's a one possession game. You need the Timberwolves to be up by one possession and to hit some free throws late, and it shouldn't come down to a one possession game. I don't feel like so. We'll see. I haven't played it yet, but that's what I'm looking at.
All right, let's move on to the Kings and the Warriors. This one, obviously the Kings with the solid rest advantage there. Warriors on the second leg of back-to-back games, but I don't really like fading the Warriors as dogs. They've been pretty good the last few seasons, but you know, I don't know. I don't know about taking the Kings as road favorites either in this spot. But didn't play anything on this one. Chris, let's start with you here. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so a tad bit different, RC, and I haven't gotten to the window with this either. But I think the Kings are the play in this spot. I think from an emotional standpoint, I just feel like the Warriors left a lot out there on the floor last night. I watched that game. Atlanta was winning in the first quarter, and then almost like they just kind of faded. I'm not sure if the league set it up like that or what, but they couldn't make shots. And Golden State was playing some pretty inspiring basketball. The Kings, however, RC, if you want to fade them, typically you want to do it at home. On the road, they've actually been playing some pretty good basketball. 13-7 against the spread on the road. They have lost their last 3 in a row on the road, and the Warriors are 5-2 straight up, 4-3 against the spread when they're unrested. But they're just 1-4 this season as home dogs. So I know you talked about not really wanting to fade them too much. This is the third matchup of the season. Golden State's won the first 2. So to me, it feels like a spot. And I know Golden State had 8 days off before they played yesterday, so they probably are. Still, not as tired as other teams are because that's a very, different spot that they were in. But the rest advantage speaks to me in this one. I see divisional road favorites with 2 days of rest facing an unrested opponent, 35-9 straight up, 79.5%. And that's, you could play the money line on this one, So that's an 80% trend that says, in divisional games, we know teams take divisional games seriously. Divisional games, you take the spread in this one. I also think this is a game that potentially could go under. I know both of these teams are, and I'm probably not going to get there with the total, but I do feel like the Warriors are going to make a little bit more concerted effort on the defensive end. They got Draymond Green back, so it's not anything that you can really look at from a trends perspective. Their defensive rating has been pretty terrible as of late. But the Kings, where do they typically go under at? On the road. You go in and look at the numbers. The one time that these two teams played earlier this season, it was a super low scoring game. The game that was in Golden State, it was a super low scoring game. So I like a rested Kings team here. If I'm playing, I'm taking the money line for the Kings, but probably something I'm not getting too heavily involved in. That's just what the research tells me.
Gotcha. All right. So real quick, before we move to finesse, Itachi brought in a query since 2021. A team with at least or with more than a day of rest against an unrested team, so second leg of back-to-back games, and is a road favorite, a divisional road favorite. 9-0 straight up, 8-0-1 against the spread, up and over their team total in each one of them as well.
Itachi, stay on my notes, bro. I said that.
And then so that says to play the Kings. Right before he put that, I was just looking at this season with pretty much the same parameter. So at least 2 days of rest against an unrested opponent, second leg of back-to-back games, and our favorites, 21-8-1 ATS in that spot. That actually backs the Celtics and the Kings tonight.
RC, I know you heard me say that, right? I know you was paying attention to me when I said that, right?
Bro, I just be typing shit out.
I said divisional road favorites with 2 days of rest facing an unrested opponent are 35-9 straight up. 79.5%. That's how I started.
You know me by now, Chris. I just be typing shit out. Sometimes I don't hear. You know that. What did I used to say before? That's a good point, or some shit like that.
Yeah. What
after you ain't hear shit?
Yeah. So
that makes a lot of sense. That's what you said. That makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense. That's what it was. Yeah. But yeah, no, that makes. I mean, yeah, it does make a lot of sense. Kings, I was leaning in that direction, but I mean, some of these things actually make you want to actually take it now, because I did look at some of these pieces. But Finesse, what are your thoughts on this one? You got anything on this game? I know typically with a lot with a high total, there's a lot of ways to play these games, especially from a pop perspective, right?
Yeah, I'm glad Chris went first because we talked about this off air a little bit. I was very interested in this game, and I wanted to see all of this, behind the scenes SDQL shit, and see if it
Uh-huh.
kind of aligned with the look. I like the Kings too, bro. I don't put much into my, I don't put this much into my capping, but yeah, very emotional spot yesterday. Now no rest. That's a tough spot. So we could very much just see a flat spot. The Warriors, let's not forget, the Warriors kind of suck. You know what I'm saying? And they have for most of the year. So I know Draymond's back and all of that. The Warriors have done pretty well unrested, but they faced really bad teams. I think they faced the Blazers twice. I think the Pistons twice. So that's not a good barometer. So now, like you said, like Chris said, double revenge spot. Kings have been slightly better on the road, right? So it's no more like the beam shit. Been slightly better on the road, and yeah, I just think they're a better team. From a prop perspective, I haven't dug as much as I wanted to. It's the late game, so it's kind of last on my list. But there's a couple spots I like. I like Curry, and I like D Fox. So I like both point guards. Sabonis is in a pretty good spot, whether you like RA or just points. I tend to rely less, on points with Sabonis and just the RA. I think the rebounds and assists was like 20 and a half, I think, something like that. So really, really like that. He can dominate down low. Draymond Green's not going to guard Sabonis consistently. I think Sabonis can win that matchup down low more times than not. And really like the Kings, bro. I like you guys. I hadn't got to it. I wanted to see what you guys would say and kind of what you found. But yeah, that 9-0 spot, you pumped in the SDQL. I love that shit. So yeah, I think this is a good spot. I think the Kings can get the offense going. And if I ever seen a flat spot, it's this one. 8 days off. You play the Hawks, who are playing decently well without their best player, pick up a big win. For the coach, shout out to him. Rest in peace.
Emotional too, right? You've seen them
Yeah,
crying and all that stuff. I mean, they
exactly.
had to win that game. You know what I mean? So
yeah, super emotional. So now, which team is going to have more of that fight? Okay, the Warriors came in here, beat us twice. Divisional game. Some playoff history and shit like that. So yeah, the numbers make sense. Kind of the motivational, situational things kind of make sense. The SDQL makes sense. So I'd be a dickhead, I feel like, not to play it now. So yeah,
for
the money
real,
line
that's what I'm
is
saying.
kind of
Like, I
a
kind of want to take it now.
yeah. So the
It
money
makes
line is
sense.
kind of playable. I would just kind of take that. And I'll look into some props, but I like both point guards. So I think Curry points was like 25 and a half, 26 and a half. I like that. Like his threes, obviously. PRA is a good look for Curry. So yeah, really like the Kings. I'm probably get there now that we kind of all chopped it up about it.
I feel like I saw it at 1.5 earlier, and then it came back up to 2, I think.
What's the money line right now?
130-ish.
Okay.
Got shop though. All right, let's move on to the last game. Bulls and the Lakers. Man, I saw this at 5.5 for the Bulls yesterday. I kind of wanted to take it, and I thought it would still be there in the morning, and now it's at 4.5, I believe. Is it still 4.5? Well, it's come back up to 5. I wonder if there's news that AD or LeBron's going to be playing, but my thought was, wait for the status for LeBron and AD, and I could get that open number. Probably going to come back to 5.5 at some point, but I do like the Bulls in this spot. I think just from a momentum perspective and just the fact that they're more rested, I do like the Bulls in this spot. Also, Levine not being in the lineup, they've shown to be a little bit better both on offense and defense. And then the Lakers side, a couple of things that I looked at from their perspective. At home versus non-conference opponents, seems like they're not taking those games seriously. Only 1-6 ATS, and then also when they're less rested than their opponent, 3-8 ATS, 7-4 to the under. So their offense tends to struggle in that spot. But like I said, I think I'm gonna wait for LeBron and AD to come in and get a better number if possible. But that's the only way that I could look is towards the Bulls, just from a spot perspective and also momentum. Vanessa, start with you on this one. You seeing anything in this game?
Yeah, very confusing game for me. I looked at this early last night because it was kind of jumping off the board as a little bit of a short number in my mind. I know the Lakers suck. Shout out to Chris. But the number seemed a little weird, right? It seemed like a Bulls number, and that's what I started kind of looking at. Yeah, like you said, I agree. I think they're a little bit better, a little bit more cohesive without Zach LaVine. Kobe White's getting a lot more run, able to play make a lot more, and not resort to resound. What I don't know the word to put there, but not just a spot up shooter when LaVine is in there. He does much more spot up work, kind of standing in the corner. I like him more as a playmaker. So yeah, kind of like Kobe tonight. His points are 21 and a half. Kobe White, I think that's a decent number. Um, that's really the only thing. I mean, Bulls. Every time the Bulls play, I look at their opponents' 3-point shooters. They are allowing the most catch and shoot volume and efficiency in the league for the season and lately. So last time I checked, guys like Torian Prince weren't listed. D'Lo, guys like that. Be looking at those guys. Caruso has been quiet wagon in terms of threes, so like that. So just a couple of leans for now. But I do like the Bulls getting the points. I would lean that way as well.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I think Finesse made some great points. I think the biggest thing that I agree with is that Lakers has just been, extremely inconsistent. Like you said,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say sucks, but I mean, you could say sucks too. We've been extremely inconsistent. I don't like the Lakers at a rest disadvantage, but I will say this, Ussie. I think it's something to note that while the Lakers are at a rest disadvantage, the Lakers kind of need to stack some wins up. And LeBron didn't play in that last game. When you think about Lakers and rest, the first thing that should jump off is the guy with all the gray in his beard that's been playing for 300 years, right? So LeBron is rested. He didn't play in that game against the Clippers the other day. So the Lakers, granted they have 1 day of rest, but LeBron has multiple days of rest, in this spot. So that's a little conflicting. You mentioned the Bulls being, pretty good. If I want to back them, I typically want to do it without Zach LaVine as well. The last time I backed the Bulls, they were playing in Cleveland, got smoked. I think they scored 90 points. Said, you know what? I'm gonna just put them on the shelf and not play them again. But I watched them play really, really tough against the Phoenix Suns the other day in a game that they should have won if Kevin Durant doesn't hit that fadeaway. So pretty sure they got a pretty sour taste in their mouth. I think looking at the game, RC, I'm upset that I didn't get there with the total earlier. I do think LeBron and Anthony Davis going to play in this game, and the Lakers are playing at a top 3 pace in the league, and Chicago can keep up. So I think something I got to keep in the forefront of my mind is that Chicago team total to go over in these high pace games is something that I need to, probably just jump on the night before, because the numbers continue to go up for the Bulls. And, it don't matter how many points they score early. I watched the Bulls game and bet on their team total to go over, and they might have 6 points with 6 minutes left. For some reason, I'll turn the game off because that makes my head hurt that they start 1 for 9 from the field. But they always end up with, 113, 114, 115 points. So, I missed the best of the number there, but I do think, Bulls, like I said, they have been able to score the ball, recently. So I like, if I'm playing the game, I know the numbers come down a little bit, and that kind of scares me off a little bit. I will wait until the last possible minute. Lakers could potentially win this game and not cover. I see it's the way I see it as well. Lakers haven't been profitable as a home favorite this season.
Yeah, man, the whole inconsistency thing ever since the in-season tournament is something that like I've been watching, and it doesn't even the fact that some days they'll have good defense, some days they'll have bad off defense, and just you don't know which opponents they're going to show up against either. But one of the things that I was just looking at here, because I wanted to see how teams were doing. This is what, January. So we have the Lakers here, one of the best teams as far as points in the paint. Opponents, the Bulls opponents, 42.5 points in the paint. I'm wondering if it's because opponents are shooting threes. I think we did. I feel like we looked at this.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. Actually.
So
they don't defend the 3-point line well at all.
So we do that. The Bulls should be. What the fuck are they? Oh, right here, 14.5. Shooting 30. Yeah, they're giving up 41.2 threes.
D'Lo for 3. I like it. Lefty.
41.2 attempts. Sorry. So, yeah. So that's why they're limiting points in the paint. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're good at defending the paint. Man, maybe I just chill on this one. Yeah, I don't know where to go. I would lean towards the Bulls though.
Did my man freeze or that's me?
What was that? Oh, both of you guys. Anything else to add?
I don't know if I just froze. I don't know what the fuck just happened.
No,
I
I
don't
think
even know what
RC
you
just
asked, bro.
paused, Finesse. I think he just paused for a second. He just asked if we had anything else on this game.
Oh
Wait,
no,
yeah.
not
Am
for
I
me.
good? You guys got me?
Yeah,
Or what?
Yeah, you good.
Okay,
You
okay.
good.
Yeah, nothing else on this one. All right. So real quick before we move on to our top plays or top looks or whatever, I do want to pose that question to the chat. SDQL question of the day. If you guys have anything to ask us on how to pull it in SDQL, this is the time to do it. I'll do one of them, whichever one makes whichever one I think helps a lot of people. But other than that, we'll move on to the best bet section right after this. Do you guys how about you guys? Do you guys have any questions on how to do stuff on here? I know Chris, you've been doing it for a while. Finesse, you've been trying to learn. If
Yeah, I was just really
anything.
interested in the Boston first half spot and the King spot, and I think we kind of went over those. So that was all I had.
All right, let's just do one random thing real quick. So one thing that we can look at is fuck it, let's just do the last
I
5
got
games.
some. I got some.
All
Yeah,
right,
I
go
was
ahead.
about to say something like that too. Let's
Go.
for the Denver spot today, just to make it applicable for the show.
Yeah.
Let's look at the difference between how good teams do on the last game of at least a 5-game road trip when they have 1 day of rest versus having 2 days versus being on the last leg and unrested. Let's see what the difference is.
Say that again.
So Denver is on the last game of like a 5 or 6 game road trip.
Oh, okay.
So let's look at how good teams do. So like maybe win percentage is greater than 50, 55 when they're on the last game of a road trip, but they're actually rested versus being on the second leg of a back-to-back and the last leg of a road trip. Does that make sense?
Let's just start with this. All right, so we have a team on the road that's on the last of at least a 5-game road trip, right? So that means I put the NH there because the next game is at home, saying
It's
that
at
it's
home.
the last, right? So let's just do that real quick. So let's just go from 2018, just so we can use recent years. All right, so last game of at least a 5-game road trip, right? And they're rested.
And their rest is let's look at. I want to see it unrested and rested.
All right, so we go rested. Let's see if I can do this. No, it doesn't work. Okay, so we go rest greater than 0, right? So that means that they're rested 55.4%, 41.5 to the under. Doesn't apply today, but if we go equals 0, Jazz Knicks. Wait, what game were you looking at? Was it the
game between the Knicks and the Nuggets today?
Knicks and Nuggets?
Niggas and the Nuggets.
Shit. What are we missing? Are they rested? They're rested, right?
Yeah, they are rested. They got 1 day of rest.
Okay, there it is. So at least 4 games on the road prior. They're on the road now. Last game of at least a 5-game road trip, and they're rested. So we would lean towards the under more so than anything on the side.
58% to the under. I like it. I think I'm gonna get there on the under. Makes a lot of sense. Even more to the under.
Even more to the under.
So good teams on the on at least the 5th game of a road trip, the last game of a road trip that are rested play defense, but their offense probably does not score. Am I right, RC? Go back down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If we look at opponents
this season, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of the how many is that total? 9?
Yeah.
6 of the 9. That's what?
Yeah.
60. That's you doing pretty good for yourself. That team total under for Denver, huh?
All right. Hopefully it hits. We'll see what happens. Okay, what's the query for previous game was not conference? It would just be P conference not equal to all conference. Is that right? P conference.
Previous what is it?
Oh, sorry, my PO.
Yeah, PO.
There you go. So conference is not equal to previous opponent conference. That is previous game is non-conference. All right. So let's go to the top looks. All right, Finesse. Let's go with you here first. Top looks. Any closing comments before we cut out?
Yeah, so run a little 2-man on DK. Tyrese Maxey under 8.5 assists, paired with Jamal Murray under 26.5 points. That's plus 128. Jazz Wizards SGP, Jazz moneyline, Kuz 15 points, and Markkinen 2+3s. That's minus 108. Drew Holiday 2+3s, 3+3s for plus 260, and 15 plus points, 2+3s for plus 200. I'm gonna make Kings money line official most likely. So that'll be the last one, and yeah, got a little bit more capping to do, and yeah, probably find 1 or 2 more spots. But yeah, appreciate you having me. This back-to-back appearances on less cap. Let's get it. I'm excited. So like I said, I got to bounce back. Looking to bounce back. I'm happy, to be able to chat with you guys and chop it up about looks and thoughts and all of that. So I love it. Thank you for having me, and yeah, let's do it again soon, my brother.
Yes, sir. Chris, what do you got?
So I think top look on the board for me so far, and the only thing that I've actually played is the under in that Philly and Indiana game. Like I said, without Halliburton, the 7-3 to the under. I think it's still going to take some time to get acclimated. With Siakam being in there, Halliburton being out, and Embiid coming off 70, he might still be drunk. So even more of a reason that it could go under. So under in that game, New York and Denver, really like the under there. I know you talked about the team total RC, but I really like the under, just the overall under in that game as well. We spoke a lot about the Kings. Not sure if I'm going to get there, but that's definitely, at the top of the board as well. Not sure what I'm going to do with the Jazz and the Wizards, man. I think I'm going to stay off of that game, but I do think the Jazz team total, if it drops for some reason because they come out a little slow and I can get under a 122.5 live, I will be taking, that number as well. And then Miami team total under 107.5. RC, I'm definitely probably going to add that one. I think a lot of what we talked about just kind of correlates to them not going 108 points. I mean, if you can't do it against the Grizzlies in a non-conference game on the first leg of a back-to-back, good luck getting it against Boston on the second leg of a back-to-back. So I like that look a lot as well. And then the one thing that we didn't quite touch on, I actually have written this down, but hadn't talked about it too much, is Jason Tatum. My favorite player prop today is your boy Finesse, the light-skinned Don. Jason Tatum over 14.5 rebounds and assists. This is something that's been cashing. I see Finesse nodding his head like this. This is something that we've been cashing for the last couple of years. When he plays against them, Spoelstra typically does a really good job of taking the ball out of Tatum's hands, and he doesn't mind being a facilitator. I think we've seen him grow in that way this year. He's going to get the rebounds. This is something that he's cleared in 7 of the last 9 games against them, and I want to say 4 or 5 in a row as well against the Miami Heat. So looking at Tatum to go over his rebounds and assist line as well, I see.
I like it. It just reminds me like how we used to say you used to look like Nemhard, and Finesse used to look like Van Vliet.
Fred VanVleet. Yeah, I still get that shit.
He still look like Fred VanVleet though.
But his day, I cut the beard a little bit. You feel me? I cut it like half.
That shit's hella funny. All right, so for me, I think my favorite look on the day, I gave this out on Jay's show as well. The Nuggets team total under. I did take it at 113.5. I think the best number you could get now is 112.5. I don't think I think 112 is that threshold that I would probably stay off of it. 112 would be the best, like the lowest number I would take for that Denver team total under. I do like the Jazz there as well, either the team total over or the spread. I do like Boston on the full game, both of them on the full game, because there's a piece of me that says Washington and Miami could probably stay in the first half, even if those teams dominate first quarter. The second quarter they'll probably come back a little bit, maybe cover that first half. But full game, I think from a full game perspective, just being able to be healthy and rested for both Jazz and Boston, Jazz and Celtics, that they take advantage of the full game. Then the other one was I think I'm gonna get there with the Kings, and then I also do like the Bulls as well. But my top look is that Nuggets team total under. All right, well, that's everything, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming on here again. Finesse, I know that was like a 30-minute warning. Can you make the show? But appreciate you doing that. Always able to catch my stuff over at Wagertalk. I know some of you guys see Ski Profit. Me and him is doing a collab right now. So me and him for the next 7 days. That's that's packaged up over at Wagertalk. You can get both of our plays for the next 7 days. I know he's been killing it. Dude's like I feel like 100 some units since like last season. He had one of the craziest runs I ever seen towards the end of last season, going into the playoff, finishing off that year. And then obviously for me, I've been hitting. Well, I think I'm number one the last 30 days, last 7 days over at Wagertalk. So we're seeing the ball pretty well, man.
Talk that shit.
We're seeing the ball pretty
I'm
well.
about to retire, Finesse, and just buy the packages from them.
But other than that, dude, we always have these shows. We give out the free plays whenever you can, but it's just like if you want them when we give them out, you can get them. But other than that, guys, we give out information as much as possible. And one way that we close this out is just, whether you guys fade us or follow us, it's on you guys to make that call. You guys are pushing that button. So good luck with all your action. Till next time. Peace.